I was out with my team and came across Brandon, and he had just slumped over as they usually are, but he has a tattoo on his left arm. My mom is the heartbeat that keeps me alive. It's my child, and he's being failed by a system, and here I am, his mother, trying to keep him alive.
Hey everyone, it's tonight's guest, Angie Staines. I'm Donna, this is Phoenix Fire. Let's bring in Angie. And is there anything you'd like to say? We forgot to mention there's a delay between. So there may come occasions where we're cutting each other off, but we'll work through it. Is there anything you'd like to say before we get started?
No, thanks. No, just thanks for having me. You're going to make me cry with that clip, so that's a great start.
It's a wonderful.
But thank you for having me.
And thank you for coming tonight. So let's roll. Okay, so before we get started, I'd like to mention that tonight's episode is premier sponsored by Stronger Together Canada, peer-led support groups through Mums Stop the Harm. So Angie, why don't you tell us a bit about you and about Brandon's childhood?
I had my own struggles when I was a teenager. I left home at 16. And was homeless for not a long period of time, probably a year, living in the shelter system. I got pregnant with Brandon when I was 17 and had him just once I had turned 18. So really I was a kid raising a kid. My relationship with my parents was damaged, of course, and there was a lot of on both sides, there was a lot of pain. So I didn't have a ton of support. I had my brother in my life, but he was a lot younger, and my mom was there. And it was really left to me to raise him, and I didn't really have the skills. Brandon was a very high energy child, and when he was 5, he was diagnosed with ADHD and ODD. Actually, the ODD didn't come till later, but so he was diagnosed with ADHD, and so I was told that he needed to be medicated to attend school, which was really hard because at the time I didn't have a voice to say, no, this isn't right, or speak up for myself or my child. But it was the way they made it seem that it had to be that way. So Brandon struggled, but we made it through, and he had about 12 really he was very athletic, and he loves soccer. And I had put him in community soccer, and they said to me, he really needs to be in the higher level. This kid's good. So he started playing tier 1 soccer. So it was a huge commitment, a lot of, but it was a great outlet for all that energy because he was practicing 5 times a week sometimes.
Wow.
And he just ran, right? So it was a great outlet for that energy, right? Poop him out. And it was something I love soccer. So it was something we had it, some of my best memories of Brandon are definitely on the soccer field because I was, his biggest fan, and he made me very, very proud out there. And then he did struggle. It wasn't perfect. As a teenager, he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder and oppositional defiance disorder. And they started medicating him for that. But the soccer was still an outlet, and, there was some behaviors, of course, and he was, I'm sure, dabbling in, smoking weed, and maybe some other drugs, but nothing too heavy at the time, nothing to be concerned about. He was a teenager, and I wasn't alarmed at that point. He was at a park when he was 16 with his brother playing soccer. It was Canada Day actually, and another little boy brought a BB gun, not maliciously, just a kid with a BB gun, and
Mm-hmm.
he shot a structure, and the BB went through the structure because it was a open structure, and it hit Brandon in the eye. And it was pretty bad. They figured he was going to lose the eye. He had a lot of bleeding in the eye, and it was a rough recovery. And they told him that he probably couldn't play soccer anymore because if he got hit in the face or any sort of trauma, he would lose his eye. Still to this day, he doesn't have a lot of vision out of that eye. It gives him a hard time. So after that, he was on bed rest, and it just things just started to go downhill. School was getting tougher for him to be a part of. He was it was obvious that his substance use was picking up, um, and then he left home. He would have been, yeah, late 16. He wasn't 17 yet.
Mm-hmm.
And he was staying at the youth shelter or with friends or just and he was using meth at the time and oxys. He was injecting oxys. Um,
I'm sorry,
but
how
even with
did you learn that he had progressed, if you will, from marijuana use and like did he confide in you, or did you have some
yeah,
understanding?
he had confided. Yeah,
Okay.
he had confided in me.
Mm-hmm.
I knew. I mean, I had an idea. It wasn't. It was pretty obvious, but it wasn't. The use wasn't. Now that I look back, really wasn't that problematic.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time, I had no knowledge really about as much. I mean, I had used drugs at a younger age, but it was different back then. It wasn't. We just dabbled, and it wasn't a huge deal, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
But he just was always looking for that next high. He loves drugs. I mean, that's Brandon. He's always looking for that bigger high. Nothing is ever he wants more and more. So I didn't really know what to do. So I turned to what I thought were the experts, and went to have what they call PCHAD. So it's protection for children using drugs. You go into this office in the middle of suburbia in this building and plead your case. They fill out an application, and you go to court, and you tell the judge why you're there, and they will have put an order for apprehension, and then you take it to the police and they apprehend them. So I did that. And once they're apprehended, they're put into detox for 10 days. I mean, now that I think about it and I'm more aware of the realities of drug use and everything else, the detox, he probably didn't even need detox. It wasn't, and really, I think he just learned more about drug use in the program. There was no aftercare really. You were just kind of left, and I still didn't know. I wasn't really, I didn't understand. I thought 12 step was the only way. They tell you tough love. They
Mm-hmm.
tell you, you know, just all the advice they have for you. Tough love and abstinence and everything else.
Mm-hmm. And
Um,
did you personally have
and
any
then, oh,
experience with
sorry,
the 12-step program, or is that
not me
something that
personally.
no? Okay. And
No,
sorry,
not me personally. No.
okay. Yeah, more of a kind of, like you said, a dabbler, nothing problematic. And
Yeah, no, it was never anything problematic.
in terms of the PCHAD, like who recommended that to you? Was that like a family physician, or like how
No,
did you
it
learn
was
about that
I
program?
I called ADAC, I believe it was, because at the time I'm like ADAC, that's who you call. So
And
I
I'm
believe
sorry,
I called ADAC, and they
what is ADAC? I'm not
ADAC
familiar.
is, I don't even know what it stands for, but it's, the addictions health kind of program,
Okay.
tough love, same kind of recovery based. We're gonna get you better kind of thing.
Okay.
So they referred me to that. So that's how I had learned of it. And I just assumed because they were the experts and I didn't know.
Hmm.
I didn't have a voice. There's a lot of stigma, right?
Oh, absolutely.
As being a young mom, you were expected to fuck up, right? You were that I knew that, and I didn't really have anybody I could reach out to. So I was just doing the best I could, and not being given the greatest advice. And I think PCHAD is definitely probably one of my biggest regrets,
Mm.
because it taught Brandon how to use more drugs. I believe it damaged our relationship. It reinforced the stigma of his drug use and that it was bad and he needed to be punished. And
Hmm.
it it just framed it in a way that just was not great for our relationship. And I regret that for sure.
Was he having any interactions like with the criminal justice system at that time, or
Oh, yeah, I mean,
yeah?
he had not a ton as he used, just getting into shits, but nothing crazy.
Yeah.
Um, stealing. He used to, go root through cars to get money. I remember catching him doing that one time. Just, petty crime. Nothing
Hmm.
really, um, yeah, nothing significant, I guess.
Hmm. Hmm.
So then yeah, he went through that, and it just, after 10 days, they released them to the world with no supports really. So there I was with this kid. I had no idea what I was doing.
Hmm.
And he yeah, he then he decided he was gonna go. I think because our relationship was damaged, I think he felt he was going to go find his dad, who hadn't been a part of his life really in any significance. He'd probably seen him 6 times in 17 years.
Hmm.
He didn't want to be a father. He was a drug user in East Hastings. Methamphetamines was his drug of choice. But when you don't know your dad, I think Brandon saw him as this like James Bond, like anything was going to be better than what he was experiencing at that time, I think.
Hmm.
So he went there and he connected with his dad, and it didn't go well. He realized very quickly that his dad wasn't the person he thought he was and wasn't going to be the father or really even care about Brandon, which I think just damaged him even more,
Hmm.
and really just um, his dad did find recovery in 12 step and that worked for him. So he really pushed that. And at the time, Brandon, I don't think was ready by any means. And so it wasn't the glorious reunion I think he had expected, and it just further pushed him into things. And
Hmm.
that would have been around 2012, I guess, and that's when they changed the oxys, the formulation of the oxy. So he
Hmm.
switched to heroin. Um, but even back then with the heroin, like he, even though he was using heroin, it didn't affect his life like now, like the supply does now. I was thinking about that not that long ago. It's that he had some normalcy. He could like use his dose and then kind of, get on with his day a bit and not have to worry about feeling dope sick in 3, 4 hours like he does now. So,
So, if I
um,
follow correctly,
so
like you're saying that the high itself lasted longer, so he was able to.
yes,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
I just
I
wanted
mean,
to make sure I understood what you were saying
he'd
there.
have yeah, he was
Because
able to
I've
have a
heard that
part-time job.
I've heard that from other
Yeah,
people
he
that
was. He,
the supply now, like it's much shorter, so you're seeking more often, and so of course it makes very much more difficult to be uh, what's the term, a I'm at a loss for words here.
Functional.
Functional. Thank
Yeah.
you. Gosh. So yeah,
Hmm.
it's interesting, and from your own observations as well, Uh, and obviously with what you do.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. And I think, not to get off topic, but
Hmm.
that, I mean, fentanyl, the half-life is much quicker, and then you've got, um, everything else that's in it. So now, Brandon, I mean, within 3 hours, 4 hours, he's starting to feel the effects right now. And so he's constantly in that grind, right, of where the next dose comes from or whatever that may look like. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it definitely changed from, so the heroin, he was using heroin, but he was living between, like, he'd be in East Hastings for a while, and then he'd go to Victoria, and he'd have part-time jobs, but his life still wasn't, I mean, it wasn't great, but it wasn't that bad, I mean, not to, I don't want to minimize what he's gone through. And then fentanyl hit, and he called, and he said, I want to come home. He's like, my friend's dying. He had a girlfriend that had died, and a few friends that had passed, and so he I got him on a bus. He came home, and he walked off the bus, and I didn't even recognize him. He was just, I actually walked past him in the bus station, and then, but he made it here, and he went to detox. Um, and he did end up doing, he did, I think it was about 13, 14 months at our house, which was an amazing experience for him. He was on methadone,
And I'm
and that
sorry.
really helped him.
What is our house?
Our house is a recovery center for men on the outskirts of Edmonton. It
Okay.
is 12-step, but they also now, especially, are, really looking at harm reduction and that kind of thing. But it's actually in an old motel. So you only have to share a bed, like a room with one other person. There's a full, like, dining room. They have, you can work after a little while. It was a really good program. He really bonded with the staff, especially a few of them. And um, I thought, well, this is it, right? Like, he's found his recovery, and so he had this graduation ceremony, and everything seemed really good, and he was going to get his own apartment, which was really exciting for me, because that's all I
Mm-hmm.
ever wanted, was, to set up an apartment for him. And I don't even know if it lasted 2 months. It was, he decided to come off the methadone. He always, for the longest time, and I don't know if he'd be the same way now, but it was like the stigma of being on methadone really weighed heavy on him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he was quite in a rush to get off, and he got off of it pretty quick. And at the time, I still didn't really know a lot, but the doctor was saying, okay, this is great. And he seemed okay. And he just, I think the isolation and not being around all these people and having that in-house support, and being alone in an apartment,
Yep.
wasn't the greatest apartment, because it's all I could afford, and all he could afford. And so I think the reality of his life got a little, and he stopped taking his psych meds, and then he was working, but started using, and then it just all fell apart
Mm-hmm.
pretty quick. He got into a relationship with somebody who was a substance user, and it was almost immediate that he just went back, like, full bore, to using. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that basically, yeah, that takes him to 22, I guess. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then he went back to East Hastings, and he was there, and experienced a lot of poisonings. And there was, especially during COVID, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
every month, like, I remember the November, I think he had four reversal, like, poisonings within, like, 3 or 4 weeks. I thought, I'm never going to see him again. And then
Mm-hmm.
spring of 2021, he and of course communication's sporadic, so you don't really know where he is. And
Mm-hmm.
then spring 2021 called. He said, I'm coming back. I can't do it here, so I want to be by you. And yeah, he came back, and uh, there was never, I don't want to say he didn't have it in him, because he
Mm-hmm.
did. He was just not in the greatest place mentally, no supports. Um, we tried, like, from the moment he got off the bus to, like, hey, we'll get assistance, we'll do this, but detox, it just, I remember he was supposed to come back and get right into detox, and he called in the car from the bus station as I was driving, because I thought I was saying, they're like, no, there's not a bed. So it just, from that moment, it was just, he just spiraled, and his drug use just really, really intensified. And so that's, since 2021 here. So, and he's
Mm-hmm.
still actively in use, living in the inner city.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard from him in a couple weeks now, so it starts to get a little concerning, of course,
Yeah.
but I'm constantly looking out for him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so is what like yeah, you started an organization called 4B Harm Reduction Society, and if I'm correct, the 4B stands for Brandon, so it's kind of in
Yeah.
honor of him. So can you please tell the listeners, viewers, whatever, a little bit about what it is that you do? It's amazing work. So please, I'll turn the table back to you to fill us in a bit more on that.
So 4B is a mobile harm reduction outreach team. Our focus and mandate is harm reduction supplies. So we carry safer use supplies. So pipes, needles, really anything you need to use your drugs safely. So tin foil, everything. We carry everything. We we naloxone as well. We give out naloxone. We give out snacks and water as well. But we keep our teams very small. Usually there's 4 or 5 of us at the most, because we try and be uh, in the places that not most people won't go, but you can't go when you're pulling a wagon and there's a large group of you.
Mhm.
So the alleys and dumpsters, stairwells, LRTs, stations, that kind of thing. So we just walk around. We have conversations with people. And that's really the biggest thing. We refer to services, and we just listen, and we have conversations, and really just try and, like, stand with these people, and the community itself, and just really try and put ourselves in their shoes, and not just, like, meet them where they're at, but also just be there with them in those really horrible moments, right? Or even in the
Mhm.
happy moments. It's not all bad. I've seen some really beautiful things out there
Mhm.
too.
Mhm.
So it's really just trying to make a connection. Brandon said to me, not long after he came back, he said, I'm tired of people crossing the street to avoid looking at me. And that absolutely broke my heart, because I know
Mhm.
my son, and I know, is he a drug user? Absolutely. But he's not a bad person.
Mhm.
And it hurt. And it, at the root of everything is the stigma the whole
Mhm.
community feels. It affects everything they do. It affects if they're
Mhm.
accessing healthcare. It affects if they just ask for clean supplies. It affects everything. Even
Absolutely.
even when I, reverse a poisoning, the first thing they usually say to me is, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Like, it's that
Mhm.
stigma that they're being bad, and my goal is just to make them feel like people, and just have conversations, give out some mom hugs, and just, and I think we're able to, because we've spent the past year building these relationships with the community. They know who we are. They discuss the drug supply. They will talk to us about what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
They so we can spread the word. At the heart of it is just harm reduction and just um, respecting their right to use drugs, and giving them the autonomy to do it safely,
Mm-hmm.
with no judgment, just radical acceptance. And yeah, that's pretty much what we do. We also do we do naloxone training. Yeah, and we do some like fundraising where we do. Last February, we gave out, with Project Warmth, we gave out 205 backpacks full of, snacks and coffee cups and just everything. So we're just, just really trying to just make people feel like human beings,
Mm-hmm.
and let them know that we care. And not everybody has that opinion about
Mm-hmm.
them, because they're not, they deserve some compassion and
Absolutely.
understanding.
Yeah, I absolutely love what you're doing out there, Angie. It's I wish more people would follow that model, and hopefully towards the end maybe we can let people know how they can get in contact with you and
Sure,
maybe do something similar,
absolutely.
or join your team or whatever the case may be. But so in your work with 4B, and knowing that Brandon is out there, there was an incident which was alluded to in the preview clip. Do you mind elaborating on that evening, July 8th?
Yeah. So we were giving out supplies in the inner city, and we were in a pretty high traffic area that we knew. And my team was kind of off to the side having conversations, and I was just looking around, and I saw somebody slumped over, like I said, like they usually do. And then uh, I so I went to check, and as soon as I got close, I saw his tattoo on his left arm, and I knew exactly at that moment who it was. He got that tattoo after he that was my gift to him after he graduated from our house. And it was, it at the time meant something. Like we had
Mm-hmm.
gotten through this and gotten through so many things, not just that, just growing up together and,
Mm-hmm.
all the craziness. And so seeing that, it was, I knew exactly who it was. So I tried to wake him up, and he didn't. I put the pulse ox on his finger. And it was he had just used, so at first I wasn't, okay, this is it. And then you could see it starting to drop. So I actually just gave him a half a dose of naloxone. I just wanted to titrate it a bit for him, because I wasn't really, I just didn't want to make him dope sick. I didn't want to put him into precipitated withdrawals. Yeah, I just didn't want to
So
have to do all that. Yeah.
I mean, I was just going to comment. Like, I can't imagine how surreal that must have been for you. Like, how did you kind of separate yourself from the reality of what was going on, and do what you needed to do? Like, I so commend you for that, because I don't think I would have been able to have the collectiveness to function. It's amazing.
Yeah, surreal is definitely the word I have used. I remember as I was watching the pulse ox and kind of just assessing him, thinking, this is fucked up. Like, this isn't in the baby books. This isn't. How did we get here? I could smell I can still, like, even talking about it, you could smell the pee on the side, the urine smell on the sidewalk. And here's my kid, and he's dirty, and he's laying there, and um, it just, I don't know. There's nothing that can prepare you for that. I really just, I'm in school for my nursing now. Tried my best to just, I wanted to be the one to take care of him. I guess I could have just called 911 and freaked out. That it was a definite possibility, but I just felt like I needed to do this. And thank goodness it wasn't a really heavy poisoning, which he's had before. It was still enough to be very concerning, but it, I don't know. There's nothing, there's no words to,
Mhm.
it's your baby, right? It's your child and they're suffering. And you just, you just do what you have to do, I guess. And I just remember like, trying to wake him up and being crouched down and watching the pulse ox and just putting my face against in here and saying like, Brandon, it's mom, come on, I need you to breathe, and just reminding him to breathe, um, which
Sorry.
seemed to be helping for a few minutes. That's okay. And then, yeah, and then deciding, okay, I'm going to give him a little bit here, and took a couple minutes, and then he started to kind of push himself into me, and I knew he could hear me. I knew he could hear me, and just kept doing what I do, and I guess, and just reversing it, and just trying to be as calm as possible without losing my mind, because he needed me,
Mm.
and maybe I wasn't there like I should have been, when he was younger. So this was my time to step up, I guess. I don't know. But sorry. Yeah, it's very surreal is the word. I would absolutely agree. Because when I look at him, I still see that little boy, just
Mm.
like yours, right? Just full of energy and just that's how I see Brandon. I don't see the drug user that's dirty or any. That's not. He's my baby, and you know, and I just try and keep all. I just. It took me a long time to get to where I'm at in my thinking and understanding of what is the real issues. I joined Mom Stop the Harm in 2016, I think. And um yeah, just watching these amazing strong women like that have
Mm.
just gone through hell and back, just fight. And I remember thinking, if they can do it, I can. And so I started researching, I started looking at harm reduction. I started to really try and understand and put myself in Brandon's shoes and really understand what he was up against.
Mm.
You know, Drug use is just a small layer, right?
Mhm.
There's the mental health, there's the lack of supports and housing, and there's the stigma,
Mhm.
and there's long-term health issues. There's so many things, and it just so I guess I really just try and just understand, and I know that you know many of the moms would do anything to have even a minute more with their kids.
Mm.
So for me, I just try and really just, even if that interaction is, just really take every moment in, and just whether it's you know standing at the corner of the safe consumption site, just having a conversation. At least I've got that.
Mhm.
And I yeah, I just he's being failed, and I don't know if there's many parents that would just turn away and say, no, I can't do this. He deserves better. So the whole community
Mhm.
deserves better.
Mhm.
And yeah.
I agree. Now, Angie, I'm just going to, we're going to take a small break to hear from tonight's
Yeah.
premier sponsor, Mom Stop the Harm. So
Yeah.
we'll be right back.
Thank you.
We've watched our children walk away. We've felt hopeless, powerless. We are Moms Stop the Harm. We are not hopeless. We are not powerless. Stronger Together Canada is a national network of peer-led support groups to help navigate these challenges. If you're coping with a child's substance use, reach out to www.holdinghopecanada.org. If you've lost a child to drug poisoning or overdose, www.healingheartscanada.org. We're here to help, and we are stronger together. So I'd like to also mention that tonight's show is also brought to you by Nar-Anon groups in Saskatoon and Regina, as well as Prairie Sky Recovery Center. To learn more about our sponsors, please visit www.hardknockstalks.com. And before we continue, Angie, I just want to mention Tanya Hornbuckle says she's here to support you, Ange. Love you lots. Keep using your voice. And thank you, Hard Knocks Talks, for this. Joel's mom. Thanks for the comment, Tanya.
We've got a couple of comments on the Phoenix Fire page too. We've got Samantha Ann saying, "You're amazing, Angie Staines. Thank you for everything you're doing. You are an inspiration." We've got Anna Marie Iredale. Hopefully I said that right. "Don't apologize for the tears. I'm crying too." We've got Melanie Cunningham.
Yeah, it's
saying, "Wow, you are amazing." I think that's it.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for being so brave and coming on here and speaking so candidly about all of this. It's very difficult. And so with that being said, after this evening, you managed to get, or Brandon managed to get into a detox program. But unfortunately it was rather short-lived. And I'm wondering, do you think it was the structure of the program itself? Like, was he faced with more of the stigma, ignorance? Like, I know when I went through a detox program here, I was horribly sick. Like, I'd been using fentanyl, and I threw up so bad that I stopped breathing. I passed out, hit my head on the toilet, and the staff could hear everything, and nobody came and checked on me. And I finally dragged myself out, and one of the staff said to me, "Did that learn you?" And I thought, to myself, like, that's the attitude I'm going to face in trying to get better.
Yeah.
So do you find sort of similar attitudes?
I think, not every detox staff is bad. I've met some absolutely amazing ones. But there is a lot of stigma. I think the problem is here in Alberta, it is a recovery-based program, but you still have to triage for detox. You're not guaranteed a bed. There's wait times. There's not a lot of mental health help. And the bottom line is, what detox looked like even 5 years ago is different, right? The drugs have changed. And if we don't change what we're doing for these people, they're not going to find whatever recovery is to them. Like, I just want to make it clear, I would love for Brandon to find some sort of recovery, whatever that is for him. There is no reason why harm reduction and recovery can't be in the same room.
Agreed.
Building those relationships and that trust is really important. And I think, when we look at the illicit supply we have now, a lot of the benzos and stuff, fentanyl, from what I've seen with Brandon detoxing from the benzos, the fentanyl or heroin detox I've witnessed with him is a cakewalk. And they're just not treating it right. And, so there's the fear of seizures. There's whenever I've seen that benzo detox, it really is this crazy dark cloud that you can literally watch envelop them. And until we start kind of revamping how we're treating substance use and recovery. I don't know if we're going to have a lot of success.
Mm-hmm.
Do I hope we will? Absolutely. I want people, whatever recovery means to somebody, I want people to embrace that. The reality is, for somebody like Brandon, his brain is pretty wired now. Um, he may need an opiate replacement, but I don't know if even that would be enough anymore. We need to look at, a regulated supply
Mm-hmm.
so give these people a chance to get some of this poison out of their body at least,
Mm-hmm.
to maybe make some, clearer decisions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the detox that offers now, it's full of stigma.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's not a lot of autonomy. You're told this is what you're going to do, and you're going
Mm-hmm.
to go here, and you're going to go here, and that's
Mm-hmm.
it. And that doesn't work for a lot of people. I know
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't work for me. So,
I remember
and
being
then
super
the
sick.
other thing,
I couldn't even hold down water. And they're like, if you don't go into that 12-step meeting, you're out.
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
like
exactly.
have some compassion, so anyways, yeah, I agree
Yeah,
that whole
there's
system
so,
needs to change.
it's just, I think what I always try and keep in mind is the community has so many barriers up. Why are we making them jump through so many more hoops, whether it's within the recovery system or just even trying to get into that system? Like, why do we not have detox on demand? Why aren't we treating the benzo withdrawals like
Mm-hmm.
properly, not just a couple Ativan to take the edge off, like actually thinking about this is what these people are taking into their body. We need to make them comfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least make them at least somewhat comfortable. Um, because in the end, their brain is going to say, you know what, just go and get. And he just didn't, it was too much for me. He didn't have the support there he needed. Um, and it was hard. It was hard. And he was ashamed. He called me apologizing, and you know, I think, recovery really, it's different for everybody. It's not
Mm-hmm.
linear, So we got 3, 4 days. That's 3, 4 days he, gave his body a bit of a rest. For me, that's a win.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and, people, I think, assume these people like my son or community members are weak. Brandon's one of the strongest people I know. If you knew what his days were really like,
Mm-hmm.
I can guarantee you, you know, Mrs. Suburbia would not be able to handle 5 minutes of it, right?
Yeah, no,
So
definitely not.
to say that, you know what I mean? So they've already been up against all this, and so if they aren't able to make it through that, detox, that says a lot, and that says we're not helping people like we should. We're
Mm-hmm.
not, we need to staff people in these places that understand harm reduction, understand substance use, and understand that substance use it's not a, it doesn't make you a bad person. It's not a moral failing.
Mm-hmm.
That, like they said to you, well, that'll learn you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah,
Brenna's learned some pretty freaking hard lessons over
yeah.
the years, and the last thing you need to be reminded of in probably one of the darkest hours of your life
Mm-hmm.
is, yeah, something like that. So
Mm-hmm.
the whole culture needs to change. We need, there's so much that needs to be changed. Government needs to get away from this ideological bullshit that they peddle.
Mm-hmm.
I am not saying 12 step works for people, and I absolutely respect that. I know
Mm-hmm.
many people who have used 12 steps or opiate replacement therapy, whatever it may be, but it's different for everybody. We need to give people the autonomy because they have had literally all of that ripped away from them. So how about we
Mm-hmm.
start with letting them tell us
Mm-hmm.
what they need? Not even, people like me or people who work in the agencies. Ask the people out there, what do you need?
Mm-hmm.
stop telling them what they need, because it's not working. And when you talk about, they're really good at gaslighting and saying, oh, numbers are down, that kind of stuff. But the reality is, anybody who's out there knows,
Mm,
it's 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 the worst it's ever been this summer. I've never seen so many people. Like, the difference between this time last year
mm,
and this year is staggering. The poisonings are harder to reverse. They're more traumatic. There's
mm,
seizures. There's catatonic overdoses. There's skin sores. Lots of wounds we're seeing.
mm.
So really, just we need to really relook, and we need to talk to the experts. And government isn't the experts. Like,
Mhm.
start actually listening. I'm tired of people not listening. I feel like and I know a lot of moms will say that we're just screaming into the void.
Yeah.
You know, um, our kids deserve better. Everybody deserves better. And the fact is that in this province, at least, poisonings went up a lot,
Mm,
and we should have done something then.
mhm.
But when you're losing the amount of people we are per day, and somehow we're just supposed to be okay with it, and then when we do speak up, then we're labeled radicals, and
Mm.
but I find that very offensive, because guess what? We're the ones cleaning up the mess and trying to
Yep.
pick up the pieces and trying to hold it together.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, it's infuriating would be, yeah, I would say the word for that.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more on anything that you said there, Angie. Now, as we kind of touched on earlier, that you do social media. I know that you have a Twitter page, um, and oops, I haven't personally had an opportunity to do the whole thing, but from my understanding, it's quite fiery. So that's awesome.
uh, well,
What's your Twitter page?
naturally a
What's your
Twitter
redhead,
handle?
so, and a Leo. Sorry,
what's your Twitter handle? Is that what's called a handle?
freckle
I don't know.
goddess.
Pardon me?
It's
Freckle.
freckle goddess.
Cool.
Freckle goddess.
Freckle
Yeah.
goddess. Okay.
Yeah, you know what? I'm tired. I am absolutely, and I know there's a lot of moms out there and a lot of we're tired of shutting up. Our kids
Hmm.
are dying. Something needs to change. Stop gaslighting us. Sit down and have a conversation. Open your mind up to stop stacking these these round tables or these research,
Yeah.
stop asking, like, well, what do we think we need? You know what we need. We need a safe supply. We need to decriminalize. We need mental health help. We need housing. We need trauma informed care. we
Hmm.
need we need a lot.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's going to cost some money, but I cannot even fathom what the fallout of this crisis is going to look like in even 10 years,
Right.
because the amount of, not only the trauma of multiple overdoses for Brandon, I do notice, just things like his perfusion in his hands, right? Like, his body is paying for it. So you've
Hmm.
got the health costs, you've got the mental health costs, you've got all that trauma, repeated naloxone use. We just don't know what it's going to look like. So
Hmm.
let's actually, like, what we're doing isn't working, and it needs to stop, because people are dying. When COVID hit, they tried, but they don't care, because these people don't matter. That's the bottom line. They cost the money, and it's social homicide. My
Hmm.
child's life does not matter. He is a burden to the system, but he's been failed by the system.
Hmm.
And yeah, I'm pretty freaking angry. Yeah, and I'm 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 tired of the trolls. I wake up in the morning and I get to see messages in my Twitter like, "Why do you even care? Your kid's gonna end up dead in an alley." Like, that's the kind of stuff we're up against.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
We
know
see
damn
We see
well
it
where
here
it's
too.
coming
we see a lot of
from.
that here
Yep.
too.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's politician burner accounts, it's whatever it is, but it's not going to stop me. I'm tired of I'm tired of it. I won't stop. I won't stop. I'm tired of watching my friends bury their kids, and I know that that's my reality. I'm tired of mourning a child that I haven't even buried yet.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mourn the life he won't have, even if he's alive, because of everything he's gone through and everything he's up against for
Mm-hmm.
the rest of his life. I mourn the, my other boys don't have their brother, and they had to be part of that chaos and everything, when he was younger. And it's just, you meet people like my friend Tanya, and you're each other's support, and you know what the reality is. And then she loses her son. And what do you say to that? Nobody should bury the kid.
Mm-hmm.
Joel deserved better too. And she did everything she possibly could to help him. And every time, and it's the same thing. And I do it with Brandon. They'll be like, okay, well, go here and go to this appointment, and then you'll get help. And then go there, and, oh, this isn't going to be good because some excuse. So, okay,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to try this one. And,
You don't fit the criteria, blah, blah,
that's
blah.
what,
Yeah.
yeah, and that's what I realized about the recovery-based system. And I think a lot of us are coming to the same conclusion is harm reduction understands that people may not be ready to stop using drugs ever, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
But they deserve to be alive.
Mm-hmm.
I they do, and they deserve happiness. They deserve not to have that stigma in their lives, and the system we have now really pushes that for a lot of people. And like I say, it does work for some people, and my heart is always so happy when I see people find recovery and live their best lives.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not for everybody, just like other healthcare isn't perfect for everybody, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we got to stop putting our preconceived notions about how people are expected to act, or you know people have used drugs for many, many years for
Yeah.
many, many reasons, and
Yep.
it is not my job to sit there and judge when I can go get a quad shot of espresso and be like, oh, okay, the difference is mine's regulated.
Yeah.
What our children are facing isn't, and it's poison, and they're
Mm-hmm.
dying from it. And if they expect the moms to be quiet about that, it's not going to happen, because nobody will sit by and watch their child die or be murdered, by a
Mm-hmm.
system. So it's, yeah, I'm pretty vocal on Twitter, and yeah, if they don't like it, they can suck it. I really don't care. Sorry, I
No,
don't.
don't apologize.
It's
Please do
I
not
Yeah,
apologize. No, I'm pretty sure
my yeah,
great majority of our viewers and listeners would absolutely echo that idea
yeah,
or that sentiment, because everybody's getting to the point of frustration. And it's like you said, you screaming into a void. I just want to shift gears a little bit here. We do have a few comments that came in. I believe it's John Roosh says, forget the tools, they suck. I'm with you, dear. Got years now thinking of my boy. He's supposed to bury me. And Cheryl Deshane says, thanks for your bravery, Angie. I too am a member of Mom Stop the Harm. I will honor my son Jordan tomorrow on International Overdose Awareness Day, as I do every day, excuse me. He lost his life in 2015 to fatal drug overdose. You are on the right track. Loving him through it, accepting whatever recovery means for him. Sending you both love. Melanie Cunningham says we are walking the same path. My son is still out there. Sorry we couldn't meet in Sherwood Park. Hope you like the t-shirts.
I love it.
And I believe that's the last of the new comments, at least on my feed here.
got one from Earl here. Did you say this one already from Earl?
Oh, I did not. Earl
Oh.
Thiessen says, "Hi, folks. Great job bringing all sorts of awareness to the forefront."
Executive Director of Oxford House in Canada.
Well, thank you very much. And thank you very much to everybody for your comments and words of support for Angie.
We got some more here on the Phoenix Fire page.
Okay.
Sorry, everybody, we can't get the Phoenix Fire page up on the screen. We're working on it. Anyways, we've got Brenda Hearn here saying, letting people entering detox tell the staff what they need. Do not treat them like one size fits all. And Mom Stop the Harm is screaming enough already. Brenda Hearn goes on to say, let's be radical if that's what it takes to be heard. And Jenna McGrindle, where did we go? Jenna McGrindle says, we're done asking politely. Mom Stop the Harm says, proud to be a radical activist. Angie Welts throws up a heart. Anna Marie Iredale, so well said, all of it. Thank you, and the biggest of hugs. Kendra JW, thank you so much for sharing, Angie. And Jenny McGrindle says, spicy.
There was another comment from John Roosh here. But they did that to my boy, but he was bipolar. I'm assuming that was in reference to the I can't remember the word of it. The PCHAD messed him up, ended up with a schizoaffective disorder. And they messed up a lot of kids with that crap. And I think that must be in relation to the PCHAD.
I don't know, but I think, and that's the other thing, like we need to start, we're so worried about treating the addiction, and of course that's, or the use, of course that's, if that's what they want, then that's what we should be doing. But when there isn't that support, even in January, Brandon had about 4 weeks where he was in a crappy motel trying to stay sober, or whatever, and not use. And every time I'd be like, we need to get him back on some meds. Like I could see the behavior starting to come back. And no, we hear that all the time. I know other mothers too, they don't want to, they'll say, well, just stop using the drugs and then things will, no, that's not, there's a reason why maybe they're using these drugs, right? And it quiets their brain. And, so that's a really big thing is that, and then really, it would be nice to see the recovery centers maybe be a little more open to things like Cadian, that maybe help people with their recovery. When we were trying to find help, it was constant. Oh, he can't be on Cadian. Well, if a doctor's prescribing it and it's working for him, why are we even having this conversation? And why is a recovery center telling me what my doctor should be doing? Because I don't see a medical degree, and that in my mind is just the ideological part of it, the government funding part of it, whatever it may be. But you're not setting people up. We just need to make sure they're supported in every aspect. And like I said, I'm not against recovery, but recovery is different for everybody. And I just feel that we need to open our minds to different, even if Brandon was using less, to me, that's a win, right? So why, there's just, the expectations are quite unrealistic at this point by a lot of these places, and really just setting them up for a relapse, which a lot of the time will result in a poisoning because their tolerance is down, So yeah, we definitely, but mental health, really making sure that they're taken care of. In that sense, in every sense, housing, mental health, everything, just making sure it's the whole package. That's what's important.
Not that cherry picking bullshit that they try. So, I just before we let you go for the evening, Angie, I'm just wondering what do you do personally to stay so strong?
I do some trauma therapy.
Okay.
So I do some trauma therapy. You know what? And the the group of people that I have found within this community definitely has been my lifeline. For many years, I felt very alone
Mm,
being, a single parent and living with the stigma of that myself, and then Brandon's behaviors and blaming myself for that. I am incredibly grateful for all the people I've met and the support, and the learning opportunities too. Meeting people, researchers, and really being able to and talking to some really cool frontline nurses, and just understanding and just that radical acceptance. And I just try and put that forward into what I do as well, and just
mhm,
pay that forward. So I'm very lucky to have, Mom Stop the Harm has been a lifeline for me. Um, it's gotten me through a lot. Plus, it helped me find my voice. So yeah, I think just really making sure, and I'm in school, so I mean, I'm busy. Don't get me wrong, I'm
mhm.
busy. I just try and find the small moments, and just, yeah, try and do a little bit of self care at least.
Yeah. Well,
I'm still learning.
I know we've talked about the fact that you're in nursing. But yeah, between classes and patrolling with the team and campaigning for drug policy reform, I was very curious what you do to take care of yourself to make sure that you're, basically putting the oxygen mask on yourself first, because we need more people like you out there. And it would be a shame to see you burn out.
Yeah, no, just really finding the small moments for me, and just spending time with friends, or, just even if it's just like reading a book in my backyard, gardening. I love gardening. So, just the small things, but also, the the absolute devastation and the necessity for the work, it drives me. So that helps as well. Yeah, it's important but it is important to take care of yourself. Spending time with my other kids and my husband,
Mhm.
I do definitely. I'm getting better at it. I wasn't great at it for a while, but I am getting better with some support of some really, really cool people. So, and they know who they are. So much love for everybody. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, Auntie, I think we're gonna let you go for the evening. Is there anything that you'd like to leave us with tonight?
Um, no, I think the biggest thing is just really trying to put yourself in people's shoes, no matter what, and just really educating yourself, really understanding what harm reduction means, what decriminalization means, because that's where I think people are able to put misinformation. So,
Mhm.
really, just talking to people and understanding the scope of the problem out there, what is needed, and on both ends, talk to people in recovery, but really talk to the people, talk to your kids that are using, understand, and, you know, find out what works for you. That's the biggest thing. What I do may not work for other people, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Well, Auntie, I believe that's it for this evening. Thank you so very much for joining us tonight, and please take care of yourself.
Thanks so much for having me. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, that's it for us tonight, guys. Don't forget to like, follow, subscribe, or I'm going to make the same threat that I made last week, and that is I'm going to tell my daughter you don't like unicorns and you don't want to break her little heart, do you?